I married a man who gave me everything: stability, a beautiful home, and a family. But when I confessed, I had your kid for the dollar, he didn't yell or argue. He just walked out, took our child, and left me to face the emptiness of the life I built on lies. Now, I'm realizing too late that I traded real love for a facade. I'm Marissa, 29, and 2 months ago, my whole life fell apart when I said 8 stupid words I can't take back. Let me start from the beginning. I met Aaron during sophomore year of college. He wasn't like the other guys I was into, not super hot or popular or anything. Just this quiet business major who was always talking about his entrepreneurial ventures while the rest of us were just trying to pass exams and have fun. I honestly didn't pay much attention to him until this group project where he showed up with actual detailed plans while the rest of us had barely read the assignment. After class one day, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee, and I almost said no. But then he mentioned he had to check on the small car wash he bought with a loan and some money from his uncle. A car wash at 20? I was struggling to afford my textbooks, and this guy owned a business. So I said yes, mostly out of curiosity. That coffee date turned into dinner at this surprisingly nice restaurant where the bill came to more than my weekly food budget. When he paid without flinching, something clicked in my brain. Maybe I should be paying more attention to guys like Aaron instead of the hot, broke ones I usually went for. I'm not saying I immediately started calculating his net worth or anything that crazy, but I definitely started noticing how he'd talk about expansion plans and profit margins while my other guy friends were debating which party to hit up. By senior year, his little car wash was actually making decent money, and he was already talking about adding a second location. When we graduated, I took this receptionist job at a dental office while figuring out what to do next. Meanwhile, Aaron was working 24/7 on his business. That's when I really started seeing the differences between him and my ex, Brandon. Brandon was still bartending and figuring things out, while Aaron had bought a small house with his business profits. And yeah, maybe I wasn't getting butterflies with Aaron like I did with Brandon, but butterflies don't pay the rent, you know? So, when Aaron proposed after we'd been dating for 2 years, I said yes. Was I madly in love? I mean, I loved him in my way. He was stable, kind, hardworking. The sex was fine, not earth-shattering but consistent. He treated me well, took me on nice dates, bought me thoughtful gifts. That's more than most of my friends could say about their relationships. Then came the pregnancy scare. 3 months after the engagement, I was late, took the test, and there it was, positive. I freaked out at first because this wasn't the plan. We hadn't even set a wedding date yet. But then I looked around his house, our house by then, and thought about Aaron's growing business. Honestly, a strange calm came over me. We're having a baby, I told him that night, expecting him to panic like I initially had. Instead, his whole face lit up. He picked me up, spun me around, and started talking about converting the home office into a nursery. He was straight up thrilled. We fast-tracked the wedding, nothing fancy, just a small ceremony with family and close friends. By then, Aaron had 2 car washes and was starting a landscaping business on the side. Everyone kept telling me how lucky I was to find such a motivated, successful guy who was excited about being a dad. Aiden was born after 36 hours of labor that I still haven't forgiven him for. Aaron cried when he held him for the first time. I was mostly just relieved it was over and I could have my body back. Don't get me wrong, Aiden was cute with his little button nose and Aaron's eyes, but that overwhelming motherly love everyone talks about. It hit Aaron way harder than it hit me. The first few months were a blur of sleepless nights and feeling like my body would never be mine again. Aaron would come home from work and immediately take the baby, cooing and making faces while I just wanted to shower in peace. He'd say things like, "Isn't this amazing?" We nate him, and I'd nod and smile while thinking, is this really it? Is this what I signed up for? By Aiden's first birthday, Aaron had expanded to 3 car washes, and the landscaping business was taking off. We moved to a bigger house in a better neighborhood. I had a closet full of clothes, a nice car, and a cleaning service twice a week. My friends with their struggling boyfriends would visit and say things like, "You're so lucky," and "Aaron is such a catch," and I'd agree because, on paper, it was all perfect. Successful husband, healthy baby, beautiful home. But inside, I was bored out of my mind. Turns out, having someone take care of all your financial needs doesn't automatically make you happy. Who knew? Then, one night after Aiden was finally asleep and Aaron was working late again, I got a Facebook message from Brandon, my ex. Just a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" But seeing his name on my screen sent this jolt through me that I hadn't felt in years. We started chatting, just catching up at first. He was still Brandon, charming, funny, going nowhere fast but having a great time doing it. He'd ask about my life, and I'd send these perfectly curated pictures of Aiden and our house, making everything look magazine perfect. "Looks like you won the lottery with that guy," he wrote once. And instead of agreeing like I did with everyone else, I found myself typing, "Sometimes the jackpot feels like a consolation prize." I deleted it before sending and wrote something bland instead, but that thought lingered. Had I traded passion for security? But then I'd look at our comfortable life, at all the things Aaron's hard work provided, and I'd think, no, I made the right choice. This is what growing up looks like. As Aiden got more independent and Aaron got busier with his now 4 car washes and expanding landscaping company, I found myself with more time to think about what I was missing. I'd scroll through Instagram, seeing people traveling, going to concerts, having adventures, while I was scheduling playdates and making organic baby food I'd end up throwing away because Aiden preferred the jarred stuff anyway. That first coffee with Brandon turned into lunch the following week. I told Aaron I was meeting a mom from Aiden's playgroup to discuss preschool options, and he didn't question it. Why would he? In the 3 years we'd been together, I'd never given him reason to doubt me. By Aiden's 2nd birthday, I was meeting Brandon at least once a week, sometimes for lunch, sometimes just for coffee, but always with this electric undercurrent that made me feel like I was waking up after a long, boring nap. He'd touch my hand across the table, and I feel more from that simple contact than I did from a whole night with Aaron at home. I found myself growing resentful of Aaron's long hours and Aiden's constant needs. I started sleeping in while Aaron got Aiden ready for daycare, claiming exhaustion. I'd scroll through TikTok instead of playing with Aiden, letting him entertain himself with toys or the iPad. When Aaron suggested I seemed distracted, I snapped that he had no idea how draining it was being with a toddler all day, even though most days, I was barely present. Maybe we should look at our budget, Aaron said one night after I'd spent $300 on new clothes. The landscaping business is expanding, but we have expenses coming up with Aiden starting preschool. I stared at him like he'd slapped me. Are you seriously telling me I can't buy